there is a true get rich quick scheme. There is, and it works. It's called the lottery. But what's the chances of winning?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Property Convos. This is one that I'm really excited about because we had some technical issues the first time we attempted it, but it seems to be working now. But yeah, I'm really excited to have a multiple entrepreneur on the show. His name is Aaron Knightley from Knightley Investment Group. Aaron, how are you doing? Great to have you on.
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, we got round two, and we're ready to rock and roll, aren't we? So yeah, looking forward to it.
We are indeed. We are indeed. Yeah, man, it's great to have you in the carpool. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, cool. So I'm sure people are probably going to get bored of hearing my same old story, but it's I'll give you the overview of really. I suppose up until this point. So yeah, nothing special really in the background. Started pretty normal, went to school, didn't do college, didn't do university, flitted very much from one job to another early days. Never really settled, never really found, I suppose, anything that I was really biting to in regards to working, for an employer, or just kind of knew that wasn't really my thing. And but always knew that at the end of the day, you got to work, it's a hard work to earn your money and whatnot. So really going from one job to the other, I kind of knew that I wanted to do more. So I started trying things from an early age, literally did a really small thing on Alibaba, didn't go very well. I see like there was a process in place and there was a bit of a spark. Did the eBay shop, actually done quite well on an eBay shop that I had for about 6-7 months. Literally sort of put the eBay shop on hold. One, to a dispute that I had with eBay that I weren't happy with. And secondly, it was just, it was a lot of hard work, as in, because I was running it myself. Even to this day, really, I've run a lot of the things that I do, I run as almost like a one-man band. I try and keep overheads to a minimal, and if I can do it myself, I do it myself. And then I started trying other things. Literally went into a form of like a wedding business in regards to like cocktail trailer. Partnered up. Then I eventually was given opportunity within property. Didn't really know much about property at the time, to be honest with you. Hadn't really explored it. But once I learned about it and I was given the opportunity, and then I started researching, I was like, okay, there's a real really liked numbers. Academically, maths rubbish, but love the whole investment side of it. And really, fast forward, I just applied a hell of a lot of education into investment and learning, and and here we are. So it's like a stepping stone, but it's been a good journey.
So wow, I mean, that is an awful lot to unpack, and you've done, it seems like you've done quite a lot. I'm just thinking the best way, to unpack it. Like, I mean, you touched on something earlier on. You said when you were younger, you always knew that there was more, right? How did that sort of manifest itself? Because I think I've been through similar situations where you're at work and you kind of know, okay, I'm here, I'm getting paid for this job, but like this isn't really me, but I need a way out. How did you? What was that like for you?
I think it all comes down to, so I suppose this is one that I haven't really covered off when we've spoken about this. So this is kind of new, but I also think it's down to your character, because, get to know me personally. And, if you're going out with me or we're going out for a meal or drinks or whatever, I'm as loud as you like. I've always been a very loud person, just very sort of forward, very outgoing and whatnot. And I think when you're, especially nowadays, if you're with an employer or you're restricted to rules, but you've got a really big personality, I think with some employers and some, companies, it's just not going to work, because things are changing and they're so right and you've got to watch what you say. And I think I always knew that, you know, if someone played a prank, you know, just a humble, normal prank, I'd be about 10 levels higher than that. You know, I'd go to like the extreme, and that's probably not acceptable in most places. And there's a bit of an old funny story, which I won't go into, but the reason I say that is because a prank was played on me a long time ago in an employer. And I just went over the top and ended up pretty bad for me, to be honest with you. So, you know, but if you're doing things for yourself, well, who's going to tell you? No one. So I think it all comes down to character as well. If you're really expressive and you're quite a loud character and you've got a lot of drive, sometimes it's almost just like letting the reins off. You kind of need to find out what you do, and you hear a lot of things as you can while you're early to learn what you like. And I do agree with that. Just try and minimize the amount of money that you waste in that period. Yeah. But I do agree, you've got to try a lot of things to really go, that didn't work, this worked, that kind of worked, did enjoy it, didn't really enjoy it. This is hard work, but I know that I'm really going to enjoy it and I can really commit to it. So you have got to try.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could speak for, we could have a really long conversation about this, because that's something that I've experienced as well, just in working, and like, it's the feeling of being put in a box. So the way you described it as, you know, being a very loud person, but, you know, I'm not necessarily the loudest person, but it's more, I know that, you know, when you like, almost like you've got a faucet or like a hose, and you close it, and the pressure that comes on it, you feel so much under pressure. So it's either you're going to implode or you have to release the pressure, you know, and I've definitely sort of felt that kind of phenomenon. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about property. So what has your journey in property been?
So property originally, and my original goal was originally I was early on exposed to partnering up with a developer. So it was originally development, because that's what I was exposed to originally. I wasn't really exposed to, although I was going to events and I was educating and I did know about these other methods, it wasn't my main focus, because I suppose it wasn't what I was involved in on the side. It was more to do with the land sites, new builds, stuff like that. So I always thought, okay, there's property is a great avenue, but development, good chunks of profit, so forth. And I thought that's what's going to be involved in. So early on, I helped with project managing certain projects. We went to auction on several projects. We ended up involving, I say we, it was an old partner. We did like HMO refurbs. We were involved in HMOs, also managing our own HMOs at the time. Exposing myself, that's what I mean. I was exposing myself early to investment very early on, because I partnered up with someone who was already involved. Instead of starting out with someone new where you take baby steps and you're still learning on the way, it's almost like jumping straight in at the deep end and then learning to swim, which was good, because then my education process was a lot more rapid than someone who is partnering with someone who's basically fresh as well. So that's the way it originally went. After that, coming out from the HMOs, slightly dipping in project size, it was then focused on looking at property as my sort of go-to avenue. So any capital that I had, I was thinking property was the avenue. Property was the avenue. We did go into property, but I was very much exposed early on that there are other ways to earn quite good returns, where at the time, when I match up the good returns that you can earn elsewhere, plus my age, what I could compound in a period of like 5-10 years would probably give me a lot more capital to then buy property later on. If I can delay my gratification now to buy property, I'll be better off to buy it at a later date, regardless of the property market, you know, going up. You know, it's not going to go so up. So really, property was only a focus of mine during our HMOs, 2 HMOs we had at the time. There was only like that small period, and the education. I still continued regards to education on property, but it was only a very small snippet that it was my main focus.
Okay. That's really interesting, because I think what you've said, what I've understood from what you've said is, you know, property, you got into it, but your eyes and your horizons have been opened to other ways of, growing, getting your returns. And are you able to talk a little bit about what you now are doing in terms of growing your money and invest in, and like what does that look like for you now?
Yeah, so I will diversify across a lot of things. I put out a post some while ago in regards to like the allocation spread.
Yeah,
I will, my goal essentially, and it ties into everything I've said before, and I'll stick by it because that's the way that I'm going, is that there's this whole, in regards to investment, just before I cover off my investments, have you ever seen, you've probably seen it a million times, where someone will put out a post saying, if you had 100,000, would you go and buy 4 properties at 25,000? And you know, that kind of, or would you buy one? You
yeah,
know, you can go and do that. You can go and do either. I wouldn't do the 4 properties with 25k and a mortgage on it. I wouldn't do that. And also, I'd probably do the 100k purchase. However, whatever money you do have, if you have 100k, delay your gratification and let's maximize that 100k in the next 2-3 years. And then let's, instead of buying that 1 property for 100k, let's see if we can make that 2 properties in 2, 3, 4 years time. So that's very much my mindset. So in order to do that, gold, let's maybe start by gold. Gold is the insurance policy. So gold isn't my investment of, I want a return tomorrow. I'm not a trader. I don't look at it as a trade. I'm not an expert. I'm not a professional, but I do know that gold is very much new to pot. And we were to relive the Book of Eli film with Denzel Washington.
yeah,
You know, like I said before, there's only so many chickens you can trade until you need a currency to value it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that value would be gold. So gold is a big insurance policy. So that's one of my real main focuses at the moment. The stock market, obviously, but I have changed my allocation and my views ever so slightly on the stock market for the
yeah,
medium to long term. Just because of where I think the market's going to go, changes that will happen. So the stock market obviously is a big part. I don't hand pick anymore. I used to hand pick. I got lucky on a couple, but you know, I think going hand picking, I did get lucky, but also it was a informed decision. So it was a bit of luck because the timing, but also it was an informed decision. But overall, am I an expert at picking stocks? No, I'm not. Then I will go through fixed investing. So I do a lot of fixed investing, where I will go with big corporate companies where I can see a greater return, but I just have to balance it out with my risk. And what I mean by that is, because of some of the clients that I work with, I'm able to be exposed and have access to certain investments where, if you're willing to ever so slightly balance out your risk, still a calculated decision. It's not no gamble, by the way. The returns can be a lot more impressive and a lot more, a lot more appealing than property. So that's why I say
right,
that I'd rather start building up a really good pot, several pots, to be honest,
gotcha,
whilst, keeping property very much kind of in the background. And then other than that, and then what I do is I do private lending. So because they're quite attractive returns, but again,
yeah,
the risk is really well calculated and quite low. Security is quite high. So again, when you combined kind of like 4, 5, 6 avenues, plus, you've got your standard savings, your ISAs and stuff. When you combined all of it into one pot, if you imagined it in one pot, and then you compound the total interest multiplied by 4 or 5 years, that's a hell of a lot compounding, instead of me just going, well, I'm going to dump one lot of money into one property. At the moment, I'd rather generate up a really active pot at the moment.
pot,
Yeah, definitely.
No, that's really cool. So it sounds like you've definitely really well thought out strategy. You've diversified your investments, so you don't have everything in one basket. But I can definitely see that sort of forward thinking as to property being the sort of pension plan where everything ends up in property, but now you're building that pot and growing it as seems like aggressively as you can. That's really impressive. I had a question just about sort of the stocks and investing, only because this seems to be a topic that I'm seeing a lot more around. Everybody's posting about FX, right? So, I mean, what's your view on the whole FX trading sort of, it's really now happening, like it's an in thing now, isn't it? What's your view on that?
Yeah, so it really is an in thing. Obviously some of my guests have been Austin Silver, Jason Greystone, so there are, at the end of the day, foreign exchange trading, it is an investment model. People are making money. So it's totally real. It's just, unfortunately, even the traders who are really successful, they will say, even for people to believe, new guys or new girls to believe, really so much false media about it. It's a real trust thing. So, I'm really interested in it. I've always said that in the background, I'm definitely going to educate myself about it. And only because, I'm really interested in how it works. And yeah, it's a really hot topic. I think the type of person you have to be is disciplined. You have to be patient. The education has to come first. And I think if you believe how quick you can become wealthy from it, I don't think you should ever be a trader, because I think that's the luring part. Why do you want to portray yourself wearing the Rolex? Why do you want
What's
to
your
portray
motivation? Yeah.
Who are you trying to impress? And what's the reason? Like, do you have a child that you're trying to provide for, a family that you want to leave, a legacy, or just a safety net for? So I think a lot of people who know these people are out there making a lot of money because they can lure them in day out, and they can just get all these new guys in, the 16, 17-year-olds. But the ones who are willing to say, yeah, I'm going to learn 18 months. I'm going to go on a reasonable course that someone who's got a lot of successful reviews. I've spoken to successful people. Yeah, I think why not? And the bonus is, I suppose, a lot of people, this is a common question. I don't know if you've heard this a lot with Forex, is, well, how much do you need to start making good money? I think that's such the wrong question, because whether you start with £500 in your account, or whether you start with 5,000, you're only going to be risking like 1-2%. So really, you should just be going in at the minimal, £200-300. And if you can consistently trade, and you're earning like £5-10 on your £100 or £500 each day, and you're making like £50 a week consistently, then yeah, you're probably it's probably worth putting a good couple of grand in if you're consistent. But the ones who want to go in with a £500 account and come out like in 4 or 5 months time with like a 5-6 grand account is beyond me. So it is real. That's my views on it. It is real. People are making money. I just think you've got to be a really certain person to go in it, and your situation's got to be right.
Got to be. I could not agree with you more, because I have people around me that are getting involved in it, and it definitely looks enticing. But I think you hit the nail on the head for me about what is your motivation, what's the why, and are you trying to impress someone, or is there like a real motivation behind it? Because I don't believe in get rich quick schemes personally, and I think anything which presents itself as that, probably want to check it. But
just to finish on that, with the Forex, what I see is a lot of people, and I find this a shame, actually, to be honest with you, because it's always something I've learned this from experience myself, is we've all heard it, the word focus, focus on one course until finished, or until successful. That is completely true, because look, let's take yourself, you spent 2-3 years learning about property strategy, started building up your capital, and that, you loved it, you enjoyed it, you spent all this time, and it does take time. And then all of a sudden one day you see 2 of your friends who are like, oh, Forex, and then you change your avenue, and then you go and do Forex. Well, what was the 3 years for?
Right.
And that, and that's why I love the saying. Not only that, because I do a lot of hunting, so I like the saying for 2 reasons. But is that don't follow the big bucks into the woods. Don't follow the big bucks. Stay on track, because if you follow the big bucks into the woods, you're going to crash. Like a big road in America or Canada, and you've got these big trees either side of you, and you see these big, beautiful stags and bucks come along, and they run off into the woods, and you just veer off your car because you want to chase them because they're so beautiful, and they were there for a minute, and then you go and then you crash. And I think that's totally true. So I kind of live by that, to be honest. So if you're going to do Forex, do it wisely. Make sure you've got the time, but don't go off the track that you were originally on and your original goal.
Yeah, it's that shiny penny syndrome, and don't fall for it. Focus. I like the acronym, and I can you just repeat what your acronym for focus was again?
Finish one course until successful.
Yeah.
You throw one dart at a time until you hit bullseye, right?
basically.
You know,
Yeah.
you don't throw multiples hoping that you know, there is you know, just to finish on that, there is a true get rich quick scheme. There is, and it works. It's called the lottery. But what's the chances of winning? You know, so there
Almost
you go.
impossible.
That's what I mean. If you want, you want the scheme. If you want the scheme, there is a scheme, but it is the lottery. You know,
that's very good.
it is what it is, right? It is what it is.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Okay, so one of the things that I really admire about you, from what I've seen on your channels, is you seem to have a almost like a heart to help people and to inspire and to almost transform people's thinking about wealth. You've got your groups that you're part of. I know you've got your roundtable, and can you talk to us a little bit about what you're doing in that space to really inspire people and educate?
Do you know, it's so funny because I get asked this all the time separately as well, like on DMs or just private chats. And so the roundtable came from, I used to hold small calls during lockdown where I thought, where I wasn't too big on Instagram or I wasn't really applying myself to it. I thought what I'll do is, because I was seeing so many adverts about pay for this course, pay for that course, and it started to really wind me up. And there was one chap I actually knew who did a property course, and he put something like £24,500 in. And then I saw him like 7 months later, and he said, I said, how's it going? And he said, nothing, just absolutely diddly squat. And I just remember thinking, I didn't say it, but I just thought, have a bit of commitment to believe in yourself and go and learn. I was an academic and I hated school, but I soon found out that when I learn for myself and I teach myself, I absolutely love it. Especially when I find a good audio in, but just information that I knew, and I would just post saying, if you want to know about it, join this call.
Yeah.
And then it kind of grew to like 6, 7 people. Then it went to like 12, 13. And then I thought, well, do you know what? I'm just going to start this call. Didn't call it Knightley's Roundtable. I didn't call it anything. Just hosted a call. Started with me. And then I thought, well, let's get guests on. And what I'll do is during the lockdown period, let's get them on for free. Some of these guys and girls that I get on, they charge like £100 an hour just to speak at a conference. It kind of led from there, really. And then the accountability group, I set that up because, one, again, it started off at the roundtable, and I just thought, if we can get a really good group of people, and I do mix it up, like we'll have some people that are removed, another one comes in, as you see on my posts, and basically I'll just set challenges, and there's little prizes at the end that I'll buy people, books or whatever and stuff like that. But we're running a challenge now, an 8-day challenge. But the message behind everything was, the information is there for free. If you want to learn it, ignore the YouTube adverts saying, come onto my webinar. When they do this, just annoys me, but they go, come onto my webinar for free. It's a free webinar, got all these giveaways. Yeah, but at the end of the webinar, you want to charge me. It's, come on, just everyone is now trying to make a buck out of mentoring. People are going from like businesses to mentoring, and so I was just like, people will give this information for free.
It's freely available, isn't it? Everything's available online.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm just going to use an example here, right? Because I've been asked this a lot, and if you share this, it might answer a few questions. I've got a neck tattoo. I've got hand tattoos, right? Yeah. So a lot of people have said, oh, do you ever have problems with investors or meeting clients with hand and neck tattoos? And my first answer is no. We're in the 21st century, right? But one of the stories was originally that there was someone who put a comment once about, like shock, hand tattoo and neck tattoo, big wide face, almost like, how can you mix two, like business with tattoos? And obviously that person was not up to date with where we are in times and whatnot. But
yeah,
so there was this one gentleman who I'd only dealt with on conference call, but conference call, this number that we had would not have video. So it was all purely by voice, right? So everything was built up over just phone calls. And the first time I met him, he was looking at a site which we were closing for him, and we were helping with some of the finance. And the first time I met him, he sort of paused and just, when we went to shake hands, I was wearing a suit, looking very smart. And when we went to shake hands, he just it was just a frame where he just paused a second, and I just knew, and he sort of took a look, and all it was is it's just because he was, I don't know, he's like late 50s, this particular gentleman. Because of his old school way of thinking, probably brought up very privileged. He was very, very wealthy guy. So he probably had a completely different upbringing. And he just paused ever for a second. But do you know what's funny is then it kicked in. Actually, I was the guy he's been having conversation with. And this is what I mean by it doesn't matter who you are, as long as you're educated and you're knowledgeable enough in the business that you're dealing with, people will completely bypass the image and the views.
Yeah.
You start talking. So it made no odds that I had a neck tattoo and I had tattoos on my hands. And to be honest with you, they cost me a hell of a lot of money and they're not bad tattoos. And, when the conversation kicked in and then we went on to carry on about why we were there, the actual business, why we were there, it made no blind bit of difference. And it's never made a blind bit of difference in any of kind of the areas that I've ever worked in. It's never made a blind bit of difference. So the moral of the story and kind of the message behind that is, as long as you're knowledgeable and you can educate yourself and then you can speak the lingo of the business that you're dealing in, it makes no blind bit of difference to what you look like. Yes, you've got to dress to impress for certain people, unfortunately that is one of the things you have to do. But to others, it doesn't matter. As long as you can actually prove that you know what you're on about and you're doing what you're doing, it makes no blind bit of difference. So it's just funny because I get asked that quite a lot privately.
About a tattoo.
Yeah.
No, it's a good point. So you've got a book out now, right? You've just written a book recently.
Yeah.
So I've got a copy of that book. And it's a good book. I was on the recommendation of, I think, somebody who's part of your accountability group.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to us a bit about the book?
Yeah, the book was just from, I'll give you a funny story actually. The book was originally going to be for free until my wife was like, it's not happening.
Too valuable, too many nuggets in there to give out for free.
Yeah, and two, there was someone else who, a friend of mine who said, look, you just can't, especially a lot of the back and forth, especially when I'd ring my wife at times coming back from London and I'd be like, look, just what a waste, or it didn't happen, or, I managed to gain a client today, or, I've come back, I've been successful today. And, so there's a lot of back and forth. So really to give it away for free, she kind of said, look, it's just not happening. So she made very much the decision on that front. And all it was really, the whole point of that book is the value, because I've never spoken to anyone who found investors the way that I have, or some of the ways that I've done it. I'd be confident in saying most people find their investors through very generic and typical ways.
Yeah.
Whereas I went the complete opposite, because I thought, well, you can't spend, if you don't live in London, you can't spend every day in London networking. It's going to cost you a fortune. The time is it's so time consuming. And I just thought there's got to be a way I can do this from a laptop or a phone call. And I knew there was a way. And also I had a bit of a sort of light bulb moment when I was like, although London is where the money is, and it really is. And when I go into London, I do love it because I get this fire in my belly, especially when I've got meetings, I say to myself, I'm going to absolutely kill it today.
Yeah.
But there are investors everywhere, and that's what I used to tell myself. I used to sort of say, why am I not looking closer to home? Because if I walk 2 miles up the road or 3 miles around the corner, you've got houses like 1.2, you've got all these, like, everyone's got an affluent area, probably with like 2 miles of where they live. So then I was just kind of like, well, let's start diving into my hometown and looking around and just being a little bit more open-minded about it. And how can I be at the places at the right time where wealthy people, and how can I also offer products and services that the wealthy will want? So you've kind of got to match up all these little boxes. And the book really was, like I said in the book in the beginning, I said that, disclaimer, my success will not be, the success that I've had in finding them in the book is not necessarily what you're going to have. But I did put in the legwork. I've just provided insights on where I found them. And if someone else is to go and apply them, and the brilliant thing is about this, we're already having case studies and people are already now meeting investors, which for me is awesome.
Based on your, the methods that you've used, yeah?
Yeah, which is awesome. So, so yeah, so that's that's certainly put a light to all of it. But yeah, I enjoy writing, and I wanted to put it out there.
So here's a question, and let's see if we can do this. We might not be able to do this because it might involve talking about secret sauce. But is there any brief case study you can talk about from the book if you want to? If not, I understand, because go out and buy the book. But it would be great if you could share anything.
No, there are, without yeah, certainly. So there are case studies without giving certain of the methods away, but there are.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the points now. I've got 19. I can't remember what I numbered.
Do it like a film trailer. Give us the best bits, but don't give the story away.
Yeah, there are. I suppose I've got a couple of favourites, to be honest with you, the ways that you can find them. And one is, without releasing the word, one is a certain one is a certain method where you can go there, you can work from there, and everyone will have one of these places where you can essentially go and work from, and really, if you understand the area of where you live in and where your affluent areas are, you can then start to hone in on where you need to be. And what I'll say is, I worked that out very quickly, and I worked that out because of luxury cars, telltale signs of people dressing very well. I just knew because of what was around, what was being portrayed here. So I thought, well, I'm going to spend a bit of time there, and I'm going to just see if I can make a bit of an entry in learning who's who, basically working out who these people are and seeing if they show their faces up at these certain areas at certain times. Yeah. That's what I mean, right place, right time. That was one of my favorites, where I'd spend time at this place. And it's so funny because I also have other places, you've probably seen it on my stories, I go to like a lot of cafes with my son and stuff like that, and spend a lot of time together. And it's funny, when you just sit back and you listen to conversations around you, if you're quiet, you can hear a lot of conversations. So, why can't you apply that in places where there's probably going to be a lot of wealthy people about? Do you see what I mean? So
yeah.
And all you've got to do is, you can pretend you're doing something or whatever, but when you start to listen, you overhear conversations. People talk people are so, when they start getting into business and they start having meetings and they're talking, everyone gets louder, the coffee goes and everyone, it becomes loud, and then conversations become really clear. And I started to hear certain conversations that would make me think, you could be a potential client. You're not definitely going to be, but I want to get to know you to see if you could. And then that's that gap of the entry. That's your likability. That's your rapport building. That's your salesman skills coming in. So that kind of what I'm lingering on that avenue is one of my favorites. Another is, there are many ways just using the laptop that we can really discover who's who. And that takes, if you were to apply half an hour a day on certain potential clients or certain people off LinkedIn, you can really understand what their background is. And you can get this big picture, so you're like really enforced and ammoed up, so you can go and approach these people just using your laptop and the internet. But people just don't. So
that's really cool. That's really cool. I like both examples. The first one that you gave me a picture of, it's a bit like a secret agent,
it's funny. And also, I've mentioned it a few times, and I mean this in the best possible way, but there's a lot of reverse psychology as well that goes on. And I've learned that from a lot of books, is that when you sell, we're all salesmen, right? You're a salesman, I'm a salesman.
Yeah, of course.
Is that a lot of reverse psychology comes into selling your product or selling your service. And what you need to do, let's just say me and you, I love this term because I have to use it a lot, and the way of thinking, but let's say me and you met for the first time.
Yeah.
If I met you for the first time, or let's just say now I pitched you a product, tried to sell it to you, you'd probably be a little bit like, well, I've only met you once, or we've only spoken on this call once, now you're trying to sell. It's a bit off-putting, isn't it? When you've only met someone once, whereas there's a very kind of in-between reverse psychology where I could pitch my whole product to you and it not be towards you, but I know that you're going to be interested, because although I'm pitching it, I'm not actually pitching it to you. I'm just voicing it, but I'm not talking to you about it. So you are then really interested in my whole pitch that I've just given, but the difference is why you're interested is because I didn't pitch it to you. I just voiced it, and the timing and the sales technique and the way that you introduce your idea or products or services without you ever really knowing that actually it was always an intention for you.
Right.
And when you start to learn that, it really pays off because, you know, sometimes we are on shorter time scales. It is a people's game and you've got to get to know people. But if you need to get a product out, or you need to, you know, you need to raise investment, or you need to do stuff, and, you know, you need to kind of get a move on with it, you need to be able to get answers out quickly. Whereas let's say I pitched my whole idea to you and you were like, oh yeah, sounds really good. It wouldn't be something I would be interested. And you just, you know, because I didn't pitch it to you, but you felt comfortable enough to say to me, well, you know, whoever you're going to pitch that to, you know, it sounds good, but I know for me, I wouldn't be interested in that. And then you just carry on talking about what you're talking, and you're none the wiser, thinking that actually originally I wanted to hear what you said, and you've just basically told me no. It's just that we've not created that awkwardness between each other.
Yeah.
So when you can get that down to a T, it's pretty cool.
And I suppose just developing on that one, I mean, just hearing what you said, in that scenario where you've indirectly pitched it and then it's like, oh, that wouldn't work for me. Perhaps you could like continue the conversation to be like, oh, so, you know, what would work for you? And then you get them to tell you.
So you've just said it. So there's all these little avenues. And then also, if it didn't work for them, you carry on conversation. You could say, you know, I don't suppose it's of interest to any of the clients that you know or any of the guys that you work with, because I know that I know that you mentioned you're involved in this, and I wonder, you know, there must be some big players in there in regards to some of the guys that, you know, and girls that would look at something like this. And so you can kind of attach all these little avenues off of it, and you kind of explore each of these avenues until really all the avenues end up being no, and then you kind of go, okay, well, that I tried it, and then you move on to your next investor or whatever.
Yeah.
But honestly, sales books I can't push enough.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm learning along my journey. It is all about sales, and like I feel like we're always selling whether we realize it or not, you know. And I think once you cotton on to that, maybe your thinking will change. But
yeah,
I guess you're living proof of that, you know. Cool. All right. So I know we're probably coming up to time. Been a really good conversation, and I know people who would listen back to this and get a lot of nuggets. So I appreciate you for doing that, Aaron. So we are in a kind of like a carpool themed show, and there's a question that I ask all my guests, and it is, what is your favorite car and why? Or what is your dream car and why?
So I'm not a huge car person. However, I do love Mercedes, and I would, although their models are changing, and this might mean something to you or not, but my retirement car will be the Mercedes, I think it's the big SL 500 with the 3 internal lights. They're like 3 eyebrows in the headlight.
Okay. Yeah.
You see a lot of them around London. They're big Mercedes cars, and I think it's the S500. It's like the S500 Lux or something like that.
Yeah.
So that will kind of be my retirement car. Mercedes, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of cars, but Mercedes will be my. Actually, saying that, I love it. I've always loved. I don't know why, but I've always loved a Porsche GT3. I don't know why, but
we'll add that to the list too. You know,
we'll add that to the list. But do you know what? There's a really good saying, by the way, which I really like. It ties to sales. Is Arnold Schwarzenegger's "Work hard and advertise." I think that is as true as you can get. Work hard and advertise. And that ties into all the sales as well. Yeah.
And I definitely see you working hard and advertising and really reaping the benefits of that. It's really admirable and impressive to watch. All right, another question for you: music. So, what music are you listening to right now? What's in your streaming service? Or
do you know? I can make your jaw drop because I can bore people to death with my music. So I'll listen to anything from, I like a lot of 50s, I like 1920s, a lot of
1920s.
Yeah, I like a lot of Rat Pack. I like a lot of classical. I like opera.
Right.
I like sort of the Italian opera, Il Divo type. but then obviously I like I like all the modern stuff.
Yeah.
R&B, hip hop, I like all of that. But it can go from jazz to kind of like a Goodfellas soundtrack to
Okay.
honestly and absolutely loving Christmas music. You know, so I would never fit anywhere on kind of this, you know, genre of what I like. I'm all
Yeah.
over the show. I'm everywhere. I'm a mess when it comes. I drive people mad.
I know you. I know you like Christmas because I saw recently you put a post up about you've booked your Christmas
Love
celebration
Christmas.
already. So I can see that. But yeah, the music taste is definitely varied. I mean, does it depend on the mood, or do you have like a focus music and then like a party music?
Well,
Or is
I'll
it
tell
just...
you what it is I grew up with my mum watching musicals. So that's another thing. I like musicals as well. So I grew up with my mum pretty much watching musicals all day long.
Yeah.
So
Can you sing?
yeah, it kind of embeds into you, right? So, and we were always big at Christmas. So,
Yeah.
you know, honestly, we celebrate Christmas in January. That's how much we love Christmas.
Wow.
We're Christmas all year through, and so you know, like the old school Christmas music. Yeah, I honestly I drive, and the reason I say I drive people mad is because one minute I'll say Alexa play Jason Derulo Savage or Location, and then next minute it will be play Michael Bublé Cry Me a River. It will be, you know, and then it'll be Frank Sinatra. That's life. So I drive
You
people mad.
definitely keep people guessing. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, penultimate question before we go. I guess maybe if anybody was, you know, starting out in their, normally I say property investment journey, but let's just call it for this one, you know, investment journey or entrepreneurial or that kind of self-development sort of journey. What would you advise, you know, especially right now in the current climate, what would be, you know, your advice?
So yeah, and I always think about this, like if I could go back, and I started saving pretty early, but I would, I'd really save hard, and I would really push on being delayed on your gratification, and I would try and develop habits as such. Don't spend money on things you just don't need, uh, and the whole keeping up appearances, you know, because that money saved early on. You know, if someone started out at 17, you know, 17 years old, and they saved heavily, and you know, they didn't follow the shepherd, you know, and they were just a sheep, and they did their own thing, and they had
Yeah.
commit discipline. You could be such a wealthy person if you started at like 17, 18 and committed yourself to like the age of 26, because you and I know that's no time at all, and it just flies. Like I'm 27 now, and it just flies. And I think, my God, you know, if I could have really started hard at the age of 18, you know, you'd be like twice where you are, twice, three times where you are now. And so never rush into anything, save hard, and only invest in what you know and your own reasons. Don't get caught up in this whole he's doing forex, so I've got to do forex because, you know, if he makes it, I'm going to feel like I missed out. Forget all of that. Don't worry about what they're doing. Invest for why you are investing, and it'd be those three things: save hard, discipline, invest for your own reasons, no one else's.
Very good. Very good. Very, very, very good advice. Listen, Aaron, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad we got there in the end.
Yeah, we
Despite
did.
the
Yeah,
technical hiccups.
it's been
Thanks for
emotional.
bearing with me. Lastly, if anybody wants to, you know, reach you, what's the best way to get at you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Instagram, social media. I think you can reach out. Obviously, I'm going to be doing YouTube now, and I'll be doing certain content that people keep asking about and stuff. And so, you know, whatever social media someone wants to reach out on, they can do it via that. Yeah, easy
Awesome.
going, however they want to reach out.
Fantastic. All right. Well, listen, Aaron, it's been great. And you know, you take care. Have a good day. And you know.
Yeah, lovely. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We'll catch up soon.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, buddy.
Lovely.